All right. What is up, everyone? See if everything's working on that side. How is everyone doing this evening? Welcome there, Stud City. Got Copper. We have Ben. Zombie Killer King. The name just gets me. Yeah. Tape 2, scene 2, never hurts. And yeah, we're gonna get into this. So, Titanic's Bow, one if not the most famous section in Titanic, and well, all of history. I mean, from the moment Titanic and the iceberg see each other, the bridge is probably the most interesting room in Titanic, if I want to say it that way, or most interesting place in Titanic to be in, because it was just such a very interactive, very like jam-packed, filled room in Titanic, with officers running in and out trying to continue keeping Titanic floating. And unfortunately, I can't use these stairs to go down there, and I don't even know if I can go on the bow, because, well, it's gotta be interesting for me. But we can attempt to get down there. But yeah, this is Titanic Honor and Glory. If you guys do not know, right behind me I'm building a Titanic, and I will kind of angle it. I will sneak peek y'all for those who are in the stream or watching later on. But there is a Titanic being built over there, and it is very big. Like, very big. As you can see, that there is a like super high point that is not all red. It's just a marking on how high it's going to be from the bottom of the ship to the bow, which was the section that we were just looking at, and well, what we're going to be looking at in a second, if I can get down to Titanic, the bow section at least. They make it super difficult. I don't know why they make it so difficult to get down to Titanic's bow, but they do. These stained glass windows here, guys, what I'm gonna do when I build this room in Titanic, which this by far is one of my favorite rooms in Titanic as well, just because who would want to be sitting down? Like, guys, could you imagine just sitting down there talking to your friend or your family member and just chatting away? Like, amazing, in my opinion. I cannot picture, like, just imagining myself sitting in this room chatting with a friend or something. And then the stained glass windows in the back, they are just beautiful. I'm going to pretty much see if someone's able to make the stained glass windows that you guys see in the background, and then I'm going to put those into the room, and hopefully that works from there. Yeah, I agree with you too, Stud City. This is definitely a very interesting room. Well, just in general, this is a very interesting concept and ship that they have made, Titanic Honor Glory. Yes, we're retrying this again, Copper. I didn't want to be left alone tonight. I wanted to stream. Like, that's how bad I wanted to stream. I closed all my tabs, so hopefully this time it works and I don't have any issues. I am still experimenting with maybe the stream, trying to get things to work. It is very laggy right now, but nothing I can do about it. Anyway, we're not looking at this side or this stuff in Titanic. I do want to show you this though. This is a very, very cool thing in Titanic, and actually I'll be using these later on. Not this map, but I bought the blueprints for Titanic that'll help me make the Titanic that is behind me a dream reality. Yeah, so not gonna go too much in that room because I want to break these rooms in Titanic off into streams and videos. Like, I will be doing some videos on Titanic as well. Mind you, I am going to be making another channel, and that'll be directly towards Lego. This one's going to be kind of an odd channel. It's going to be more targeted towards the ocean liners and ships and Titanic, which is what my channel is going to be dedicated towards now. My city did not work, and I'm fine with that. I want to make a channel that I am more passionate about, which would be, in this case, Titanic and ocean liners, things that I just absolutely love. And it is very laggy right now just because my computer just, I don't know what it's doing. It's being fishy with me. But there's got to be a way to get down to this bow section. And I think actually I figured that way out. We're going to reattempt what we did earlier and see if that will help me get on to the bow. Because I want to get to the bow and show you guys all of the, well, content for today. Because I wasn't smart enough to do that before the live stream. Because sometimes I don't outthink the box. I just moved all the Lego last year, still putting this together. Copper, you got to get that stuff put together. This is Titanic's stern. Again, not really something we're going to be going on in this video, but it is still a very important scene in Titanic, and especially with how Titanic sunk. The stern is definitely probably one of the most famous parts because it's, well, the most, I would say probably one of the most watched scenes in Titanic. You watch Titanic, you gotta watch the ending scene. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing for breakup wise, and it helps show how Titanic broke up. I don't know why it's taking so long to go from the old translation thing to the new one. There we go. I like the film A Night to Remember, but they did the final punch wrong. Yeah, honestly, okay. The Titanic Night to Remember, they didn't really... Everything was pretty much correct. In fact, they did some more things in Titanic, or in the Night to Remember, than they did in the Titanic, the movie, in my opinion. I feel like they did a little more correct. I want to see if I can get down to this. I don't know why they make this so difficult. Like, guys, come on. Let's be honest. Why do they gotta make it so difficult to get down there? And that was the fastest one that went through. And of course they can't make me get up this ladder either, because if I use the ladder I fall down the hole. So yeah, I don't know if I can even get to the bow. Which is weird because this has nothing, this door has no contact with what it's going to be leading me out to. Like, this door essentially leads me out to Titanic's bow. The fact that this door leads me all the way up to right under the bridge has nothing to do with what this door was meant to. I don't know why they even included that. Like, that's like the worst thing that I think accuracy wise they did, because none of these doors go to anything. Yet they make, get this, guys, they make the way, if I can get to it, I should be able to go through one of these doors where I can go up into the crow's nest. Maybe. They did allow me. Maybe they removed that again. Anyway, you would basically go up into this section right here. And you'd be able to go up into... This is so weird. I don't know why they don't let me do this. Maybe that was a glitch, because the last couple times I've been able to do it. It might be a glitch. It's kind of funny how they allowed me to do it last time, but this time I can't. And it was essentially you could go up this ladder and you could go right up into the crow's nest, which is all the way up in the bow. It's kind of funny though how they don't let me go into the bow, which is right up there, like right up there. So I've got to go watch my baseball or basketball. Hope you have. Yeah. Have a good one, Copper. I don't think there's a way to get up into this section. And the fact that they don't let me, like, go on the ladder does not help me out either. Anyway, 50% of Titanic and 50% of Titanic that I can't even access because they make it so weird. I don't know. That's weird. I have never had an issue getting up that. Also, for all of you guys that are either new or just like tuning in or watching, I do have a stream planned out for a very night stream. It is the night Titanic sunk, and I'm going to pretty much do the time lapse. I know other people will be streaming that night that have way more subscribers than me, but I think we can make that a very fun and interesting night. Yeah, and we'll go through when Titanic was sinking, the moments Titanic had, and just some cool things. So, yeah, plan on doing that. Kind of frustrating, though, that I can't get over to the section. I do wonder if Honor and Glory is still on the wall in the grand staircase, or is it just covering much stuff? Well, and that's the thing though, because they that door that I'm just going through is now going to lead me right under the bridge. Just watch. Wait a second. Which is going to have nothing to do with what I want to do. Like, I don't know. It just makes no sense. Yeah, see this. How do I go from that door down here? If you guys can't see it, the door down there to through this door. Speaking of that, there's a deck right under me that you would think would be a little bit closer for them to get me to, but there isn't. Weird. I don't know how they decide that this is like a thing, but apparently it is. Can I like question this here? And essentially there's no other doors under here either. Although, that's a neat little thing that they put there. It's kind of like an Easter. What is that? I wonder if that has something to do with like connecting the bridge and under the steering wheel section. That's cool. You don't see that. Okay, I don't want to go to the cruise area though. I don't want the cruise quarters. I want to just get to the section that I want to go to. This stream does not feel like a stream that I wanted to make because it has nothing to do with what I want to go in. It's so weird. Let's see if we can get to this section. I don't think it's going to allow me to get to this section, but we can still talk about the bow as we're at it. Yeah, so right now I am building the Titanic out of Lego right behind me, and I need to kind of just get information and things that I can figure out how to build Titanic's bow. Yeah, and I think that Titanic and Honor and Glory have the best opportunity to look at Titanic's bow. I have the blueprints coming, but I think that this is going to put all the colors and stuff I need to build it. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see how that turns out, because Titanic's bow is such a interesting little section to build, you have the stern and then you have the bow, and those two are at such a like an angle that like connects together, and it's going to make it really difficult to build. All right. And I don't like how these doors just like wandering openly like just go out in the middle of nowhere, because it makes no sense essentially. But yeah, apparently it's a thing there. Whoever thought that would be a good idea, I don't know. But yeah, nothing I can do about that. Anyways, this is the grand staircase, but yeah, I don't want the crows off it. I think what we can do, if you guys are okay with this, and really are interested in this, what we will do is I'm going to close this software down, and I'm going to open Britannic up. Britannic has pretty much the same software design, pretty much the same section of information when it comes to the actual bow section that'll help so much during this. So I'm going to essentially, hopefully, maybe, will work okay. We're going to close this section down for a second, and we are going to reattempt this, and hopefully it works. If it wants me to like work. It's getting really glitchy at me. Alright. So this section is now closed. I should be able to do alright. Whew, it's really not happy at me this time. Maybe. There we go. Definitely not happy at me. Weird. Why doesn't it let me do that? Just something I've always wondered. I mean, the bow is where the iconic scene, the flying scene, that took place with Rose. I mean, yeah, it is essentially they're pretty much the most famous. I would say probably one of the most famous sections in Titanic, the movie. We are gonna open up Britannic, and we are gonna hope that this works. This is interesting because I've never done this in stream, so it might lag up very bad, but there's nothing that I can do about that. Yeah. Welcome, Sam. I don't want to open too much tabs because apparently my computer is like really not liking this at all. So kind of keep it down to a minimum there. It doesn't want to even open Britannic up. But yeah, as you guys can see, a little bit more. A Titanic is forming in the background. Sneak peek. This is not exactly how it's going to go. So just note that when I do put this video out, nothing that you see here is going to be built the exact way that you see it right now. It might look similar, but it's not how I have it planned out. In fact, I already have the blueprints coming for Titanic that'll help me build this enormous ship the way I want it to build and the way it's supposed to be built. So nothing that you see behind me is essentially right. And the one little section that goes like super high up is just to get me an estimate of how big this is going to be. So yeah, nothing that you see behind me is right. And there's also a bunch of Lego sets down there too, which is also cool. Alright, we're opening this up. I also wonder what happened to the cover and that went over the grand staircase. You know, that actually is a really cool thing. Here's my thing on that. And good question for you there. Because the grand staircase dome, my personal opinion on it, I think it went and shattered. I think that everything in that dome was completely torn apart and gone and will never be found. And it's not because it wasn't strong enough. I just think that it wasn't designed for the pressure that Titanic had or was going through, that it couldn't hold that. Yeah, and that's my thing on that. Yeah, plain and simple. I really just don't think that the pressure that it had, it just could not sustain. There was nothing that the dome could do to withstand the amount of pressure that it was taken by not only the water that was on top of the grand staircase dome that was coming in, but the fact that both of the smokestacks also fell directly over or on the side, which would have pounded water at it and destroyed it almost instantly. That second smokestack would have smashed down and finished it all off. So that staircase, the dome is completely gone. And on top of that, it went on record speeds down to the ocean, like the bottom of the ocean, which didn't help it anymore either, because that just made it come flying off and went everywhere. So yeah, that's basically the story of Grand Staircase Dome and what pretty much happened. I'm not a history expert in that section, but that is almost what I think happened in that section, because it just leads up to that section. I can't think of any other thing that would have been able to happen to that section other than that. It almost fits perfectly. Especially since glass cannot hold water as much as steel can hold water. I mean, physics there are pretty easy, you would think, in that. Of course, I could be wrong, but, I think I'm right in that case, guys. What do you all think? Okay, it's loading very slowly, but it's loading. This will give me and you guys pretty much the same feeling of Titanic's, because it's not even on there. But yeah, so shall we move back to that scene? There we go. This is, again, Britannic. This is a game that you can buy on Steam for about $15, I believe. USA currency, by the way, because it's different in other countries. But you can buy this game. We are not looking at this game in a standstill of quality. We are looking at this game to kind of understand Titanic's Bow. Britannic's Bow was built pretty much the same. There's not too much of a difference between both ships, other than, well, of course, Britannic could definitely take on more than enough water to withstand. And also, Britannic can also take the entire iceberg collision that Titanic took and still be floating to today. We're not playing the sinking. We are going to be touring the ship. And I think the best option is the RMS version. We are going to be doing... Where is it? Well, I think to get an understanding, we should do both night and day. But I think we're going to do... It's got to lead me where? I don't even know where the section would be at. Let's do exterior nighttime. This should help out with the stuff we were going to do. I know what happened to the bridge. The mast fell onto it. And the main mast. Yeah. Oh, we're doing the night version. Okay. I'm not going to argue with this. Guys, don't get me wrong. This is still Britannic, which is similar to Titanic. There's no difference for pretty much the bow. Those are going to argue that there is a difference, but there's not really a difference with the bow and how it is built. Well, there is. Okay, don't get me wrong. I'm not right completely, but there really isn't a difference in the bow. I should be able to just, because I'm in free play mode, I can pretty much do whatever I want. Okay, so this is not HMH. This is not Her Majesty's ship. The Royal. It's not the hospital ship of Britannic. Let me say that. This is pretty much Titanic. Like, you guys could not tell the difference between Titanic and Britannic in this picture. If I showed you this, you'd probably not be able to tell, apart from the name. This, again, is going to tell you right here, one of the main anchors. But yeah, it was difficult and rarely done. But anyways, so right here would sit the anchor, the ginormous anchor in the Titanic, and this was heavy in itself. This weighed tons of pounds. I think the anchor itself weighed 2 tons, which 2 tons is 4,000 pounds. That's almost as much as a car today. So pretty much any person that drives a car or knows how much a car that has been ridden in, you guys probably would figure out how much this anchor alone would weigh, which is insane. And it would travel pretty fast down into the water. Everything you see here, I don't really care about these little signs here though. Ignore those. This is a, as it says right here, the anchor crane. This crane actually was able to do so much on Titanic and on Britannic and even on Olympic. Yeah. It is such a very well-known crane. When you look at Titanic, it's kind of hard to miss this crane because it's still a very big crane. Not as big as the other ones over there, but it is still very big. I did always wonder all the 3 ships that did a hole in the front. Yeah, this is where it would hold the anchor would be held in this spot. So this giant thing. Essentially, when Jack and Rose were up here doing their little thing, flying over, pretending like they owned the ocean, they also didn't. What it didn't show you was this ginormous crane or anchor that sit directly right where they were standing, pretty much. So if they fell, they would have fell right onto an actual anchor, and I can tell you that right now, it's not going to feel good. So yeah, essentially they were pretty much climbing over equipment that really wasn't supposed to be. No passengers were really supposed to be on this deck in a way. So the fact that they were on here was kind of weird. Because passengers weren't really allowed to be on this deck over here. Forget about this, but these signs are driving me crazy. I don't know why they make these signs other than the sinking. Basically, you would wrap the chains and cables around these. A rotating drum. But yeah, you would wrap it around here. And it could be. It says cables, like it says here, but you could technically wrap trains around it too if you really wanted to. And you can find these on Titanic, Britannic, and Olympic, and they're all over the place on this deck. Like, they're here, you have them there. I think there's 4 or 6 of them on this ship, on all 3 of them. And yeah, they were very useful when helping Titanic out. And I can jump and do all that fun stuff. And as it says here, don't get me wrong. I know a lot about Titanic. These are useful too. As it says here, driven by the steam engines below in the forecast deck, they were used to lower and raise the two main anchors. So, essentially, it's pretty easy. I like to use those because it's also much easier to say it by this. But these are no ordinary chains. This is what was able to, well, essentially drop the chains and raise them back up. And it was used by the steam engines below. So not only the steam engines, but what was below this deck is where it was used. And I don't think I can go below this deck in this ship, but I know I can go below deck in Titanic. Yeah, it's not going to let me go below deck here. And honestly, Britannic isn't their main focus. Understand, guys, this looks like Titanic, but it's not Titanic, it's Britannic. This is the crew galleyway skylights. I don't know if Titanic had that or not, actually. This is interesting because I don't think that they had these. I think this was something exclusive to Britannic. And if so, why the heck is there only one? That makes no sense at all. That is very interesting. They have one over there and they have none over here. It's, yeah, very weird. Oh, and also look here. Notice passengers are not allowed forward of this. Key word, they weren't allowed forward of this. But doesn't mean they weren't allowed. People did go forward of that. And I don't think these are going to allow me. Guys, we went overboard. I don't think it's going to let me go back on the ship. There. Try this again. Went overboard, guys. We went overboard. Oh. And this is the hospital version of it. Not the version I want. Someone could have told me that before. Where are the people that are going to tell me this stuff? Also, if you haven't already done it, make sure you guys like this stream and consider subscribing to the channel. Right now, we're supposed to be touring Titanic, and don't worry, we technically are. But because Titanic does not have the option to tour or 401 does not have the option to do it, by the way. Guys, this is ridiculous. Look how much lifeboat protection is on Britannic. Like, how are you supposed to walk on this deck? There's no way to walk on this deck, pretty much. Yeah. Don't like the aspect of that. Yeah, look at this machine gun. This is delightful. And how much you want to bet that I'm still on the wrong... Yeah, still on the wrong ship. I did the wrong version again, but I don't care at this point. I'm not going back, guys. I'm not going back. It's pretty much the same stuff. Anyway. Huge, huge ship. Yeah, Britannic's beyond ridiculous. I know this is supposed to be Titanic, but I do know Britannic did sink by mine. Yes, it did. And I think Britannic is also a sister ship that I will build with that. And I will build the hospital version of it because obviously the hospital ship is so much more famous than the RMS version because it's used way more. in pictures, and I just... Why do they make this so difficult? Like, really? They do make it difficult. I don't think I can get up there. Unless it lets me climb. Yeah. You know, that's kind of funny. They don't let me climb this either. Just like you can't go in here. You gotta love it. Anyway. Yeah. I just find it stupid enough that they don't allow me to virtually pretty much go up the stairs or the ladder to get there. For those who don't know, inside the mast right here is a ladder. So this isn't really wood. Well, it is, but there's a mixture. There's like a ladder built inside the actual mast that would allow you to get up to the crow's nest to watch out for, well, in her case, because it's not Titanic, it's going to be torpedoes. Hospital ships of her day weren't really looking for that. They were looking for enemy ships. Well, and danger. But they were looking more towards enemy ships, and, well, you saw the gun up there. They needed to use that if there was an emergency of a torpedo coming right at them. It was the only option they had to stop the torpedo. Unless you wanted to be on a sinking ship. And unfortunately, in Britannic's case, it did not work because she hit a mine. You can't really shoot a mine down because mines are underwater and you can't see them. So, yeah. Her case wasn't really safe. In between the two versions of one, Titanic, and the Her Majesty's ship, Britannic, there wasn't really a difference. Because if I look and show you guys right here, this is the RMS version, and I show you this exterior version, they are almost the same, other than in the other version that we were in, they had them covered up, and in this version they don't. I'm just going to jump over it, and I should know that the actual bow is this way. Guys, also, funny enough, Britannic was never finished to finish all these lifeboats on. And I'm also going the wrong way. Because look in this picture. When Britannic sunk, it only had the one long gantry davit here. It did not have that gantry davit over there because they were in a rush. They needed the ship out, and they could not keep finishing off the progress on Britannic. So they pretty much essentially didn't even use that gantry davit. It was never put on Britannic. I don't think it was even complete too, but we're not even caring about that because what we're caring more about is this. And yeah, so much cooler, isn't it? Like, you guys, you can't really tell the difference between Titanic and Olympic. They almost virtually look the same. But then you get Britannic. Britannic is 3 times different. You have the gantry davits. The cranes, I believe, are bigger and longer. So you can tell that. The Britannic is also bigger and looks bulkier in a way. Its main mast right here is a little bit different done. So, like, if you essentially pointed out the little details on it, you would find out the difference between them. But yeah, this is the most unique one. I find this one interesting too. It doesn't let me go through the deck. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, this is the most interesting of the 3 ships in my opinion because this is the biggest of the 3 ships. And in her case, the biggest, unfortunately, went down the fastest. It only took about an hour to sink this ship. didn't take long, and this ship went down pretty fast. I think she did really well during her sinking, though. It took a long time for her to sink, over an hour, but she did fine. Now, as for Titanic, Titanic's bow pretty much filled up very slowly, which also gave her weakness in. Once the water came onto deck, and also, quick thing on this, guys, because this is very important during the sinking. When Titanic was sinking, the water filled up on this deck first, where it's down here, before it even touched up here. So essentially, once water got onto this deck right here, because this deck is lower than this deck here, it sunk her even faster. All it took was water to get onto a deck of a ship, and it sinks it even faster. It's because it doesn't have anything to stop it. The ship cannot float any longer once its bow is flooded. Once water is on top of it, it's pretty much just pulling it down. Pulling it down like a toy. You're just like tapping your toy, and it's just going down. And it's just going down fast. And it's very interesting and weird. These cables, by the way, are just so unique to any ship. They are huge dome. Like, take your fist and like make a giant hole, like a circle. That will tell you probably about how big these guys are. They're about an inch or two thick. So like make that, like make an inch, kind of like your hand, and yeah, your hand, because your hand's roughly about 3 inches, and so if you use that, that's about almost how long or thick Britannic is. It's amazing to see how like thick and these like the wires, the cables that are used for these, and they have to be bolted down just perfectly, because if they were not bolted down just perfectly, well, the entire mast would pretty much be essentially unsafe and wouldn't be good. And they just didn't hold the mast; they held the smokestacks too. Yeah. Let me rephrase this part. These could still be around. They don't need the cables. When they need the cables is when they are going through the ocean with the waves and all of that. That's when the cables are needed. You could take all of these cables out, and if she was just at her dock, they would be just fine. It's when you have wind and all of that coming at them and pulling and tugging them both directions is when it's needed. So yeah, it's interesting and when she needs it. And now it's getting dark in the ship, which is interesting because the sky's getting interesting. And the lights should turn on very soon. There we go. Guys, isn't this fascinating? Think of Titanic. Think of the most luxurious ship on Titanic. And then think of Britannic. Think of Olympic. I love this ship because this ship really shows the power of the White Star Line and how they were driven to making the best ships, and which ultimately did not turn the way they wanted it to turn. The electricity on this ship is almost like a power plant. It is a power plant that runs the entire ship. If you think of a ship, and you think of a 2,000 or 3,000 population town, and think of that population of a town, think of the power plant that runs the entire ship, but it also runs the entire city. You could take Titanic and Britannic's engines out, and it would probably run a ginormous section of a city. It could. It's unique in how they're used. I've only seen a few videos on why the funnels collapsed when Titanic sank, and I get it. Well, yeah, because it doesn't need the cables. The cables are not necessary for the funnels or for the mast. They're not. They are designed to help keep them afloat, but in Titanic's case, they buckled pretty much. Water hit them and it just buckled the sides, and that's because they're used with like very light, thin metal. It's not really designed to, well, hold ginormous things like that. But guys, I think Britannic and Titanic and Olympic just deserve a special role, and not just this, but in the entire community. It's a ship that just does not get the recognition for itself. These ships are amazing. Today we don't have any ocean liners. We only have one ocean liner left, and I can't imagine how much longer it's going to be in service. The rest of the ships today are all ocean liner, or all cruise ships. Cruise ships. I think they're big, they're ugly, they're fat, and they're disgusting looking. I hate them. I have never been a fan of cruise ships, and I never will, because I don't like the way they're designed. Cruise ships are designed to go around storms. When I think of a ship, I think of ships as a powerful, moving vessel. A ship should be designed to go through a storm. A ship should be designed to go through and conquer the ocean. That's how ships were built back then. That's how they should still be built. Cruise ships can't do that because they're too fat and ugly that if they went through an entire storm, they would tip over and sink most likely. They're not designed to go through a hurricane or giant waves because they're just too ugly and fat. And honest opinion, that's what they are. A giant floating fat city that just looks very ugly. Look at this ship. This ship is built back in the 1915s, 1910s, if I really want to get precise, and looks 3 times better than any ship that could be ever built today. Let's be honest. I don't see a ship ever being built better than these ships. No matter what steel or what things were used, this ship looks 3 times better than any ship that could ever be built today. And again, I know Olympic was the last of her career. And they should have kept Olympic around. That's what they should have done. Yeah, check that out, guys. A room in Britannic. Guys, it's pretty fascinating. Britannic is a fascinating ship. Titanic's a fascinating ship. And this kind of gives me an understanding on how we have to build Britannic and Titanic. Mostly Titanic, because we're not working on Britannic yet. But I think we have to build it out like a wedged shape. It has a curve, and I think it's going to be very interesting to build it, because when I think of Titanic or Britannic, I think it goes straight up, but actually it has this little curve to it. From the bow up, it has a very curved look on it, and you can see it right here on this deck. If you look right here, it's not straight. It's not straight up. It's a curved. Welcome there, Alistair. This is not Britannic or Titanic. This is Britannic's bow, but it looks almost like Titanic. You pretty much could not tell the difference between it. 401 does not let me go into Titanic's bow section, which I wish they did, but it just doesn't. But everything you see right here is almost the same and looks pretty much no different. I know Olympic got scrapped in 1935. Yeah, Olympic was, again, like you mentioned, the last of the White Star Line's career. And mind you, the Olympic had a perfect career. It survived very long. In fact, it went through the 20s, which was the most successful time of her years. It was a very long time that Britannic went through, and it was a very interesting time too. Oh, what's that? Guys, the piping that runs through this ship is just amazing too. The fact that they run piping throughout the entire ship is just weird looking, but such an amazing kind of look to the ship. Because nowadays, you look down a ship's hallway, you pretty much don't see any piping. Why is that? Because no one wants to set sail on a cruise ship and see all these piping and all this stuff going around the ship. You don't want to. It looks ugly. I think it looks great, personally. That's because I just don't like cruise ships. Never have. And I haven't been on a cruise ship to say anything about that. But I think they're the most ugliest and fattest things I've ever seen, too. These right here. And I'm basically walking through, for those who don't know what this stuff is, and trying to just guide and show you guys what is here and the importance of it and how I'm going to build it. Because right behind me I have a Lego Titanic that I'm building, and it's massive already, or getting to be to the point where it's going to be massive. But these are Titanic's cargo hose. Let me show you guys one more. And go up one more head. So, in earlier live streams, and the past 2 live streams, I believe I showed you guys down below in Britannic, I showed you the lower decks of the bow, but I also showed you the lower decks of the bow section and kind of like the front section of Britannic, or Titanic, if I want to say it that way. But these cranes right here would be able to lift things into these giant holds here, and they would go pretty much all the way down to the bottom of the ship. And yeah, they would carry and hold things. So when the Titanic's car had to get down to the bottom of the ship, they would just use a crane to pick it up and lower it down, and then they would pretty much put it into place after that point. Because once it was down in the bottom, they could just move it to where they want to move it to. It's very interesting in how to do it. I can't really show you that today because, well, these ships aren't around anymore. But, yeah. Guys, I couldn't imagine having to wake up in the middle of the ocean on this ship. It sounds so wonderful. And I should be able to jump, because this is just a, like, free fall one, so I can do whatever I really want in this ship. Yeah, but yeah, this section right here is just massive. And here I'm walking on it. But actually what's interesting is Britannic had this section in the middle. This was still considered a room and a section in Britannic. These two weren't. And I can tell you probably right here. In the departure of the design of Olympic and Titanic, the 2 and the 3 hatches extended high above the forward deck and were, between them to grant. So guys, there was a little section right here that you could walk through essentially. And then there was a little section behind it that you could walk through. This is entirely different for Titanic and Britannic, or Olympics. Because both of them, you could not, absolutely at all, walk above them or below them like this guy. These ones were blocked. You're not able to do that. In Titanic, you were able to just walk across the deck and walk across the deck. Yeah. Crazy. You can't do that with this. If you essentially did that with this ship, you were going to hit a wall. Like I just did right there. I played Titanic VR in its Wreck VR game. Oh yeah, that's a cool version. And the VR in Titanic is amazing. I think it's a very unique concept. And that's how it should be played. PC is an experience, but playing it in a VR headset is almost like you're actually on Titanic or Britannic or Olympic for all I care. But guys, this is going to be interesting. Oh, and also these are going to be very hard to build in Lego. Just because Lego really doesn't have anything that I can use to build this. The Sunderland Forge and Engineering Company. Guys, this is also very cool because most of Titanic and Britannic and Olympic stuff were built directly in harbor or in the town. It is just fascinating to know everything that's here and the machinery work. Guys, the machinery on Titanic, everything that was used to build Britannic, Olympic, and everything like that are just amazing. It's crazy. And all these on here, by the way, are used to ventilate things down to the lower deck. So they're here, as you guys can see, and it pretty much ventilates everything. This would ventilate down to the crew members. There's none on this side, but you gotta understand that when we took the tour down to Britannic, or down to Olympic the other day ago, a month ago, let me say it that way, down the Titanic in this game, the bottom three were our cargo. It held cargo and everything that involved cargo in the bottom three. And then the top three held all of the crew members and then other etc. amount of rooms. And then the top two, the other two, this ship would hold something entirely different. It would hold the anchors and the machinery in the ship and the crew tables and a bunch of other stuff. And yeah, that is the section for that. Move down the ladder and move right in between the ship and into the section. Amazing. Play now. Amazing. Simply. My voice got quiet there because it's just amazing. It's fantastic to see a ship that is so well designed and very luxurious, apart from the decks that held so much lifeboats and so much safety precautions and everything else. It is amazing. I love the 1997 film, but personally, ship's stern didn't stick straight up like that. No, it didn't. It's just how it is. And I feel like you're getting a lot of this information off, what's it called? Ocean Liner Designs, which is interesting because I watch a lot of his content and it inspires me, but I also think you can learn a lot by just researching things. If it shows anything about any other YouTuber, you just have to research. It takes time to research, but it's also very fantastic to see things on it. I'm giving you guys good glimpses of what the bow of this ship would look like. Understand, this bow is nothing like Titanic, or well, it is like Britannic or like Titanic and Olympic, but there is a couple differences, and I think the biggest difference you guys can tell is this giant open section, or not open section here. These were actually rooms and cargo room holds that you could put down the stuff. In the middle was an entire different thing. This was a staircase, a whole staircase that would lead down the ship. So this essentially is entirely different. If we were to do the sinking, and I can even show you in the sinking, I can even show you guys in the sinking that these stairs did go down. I don't know if I think it's in the sinking of this. I think. Don't get me wrong on this one. Don't give me credit on this one. I'm unsure. But I think. Let's find this out. We gotta hurry up and get down there because I think the bow is actually being flooded right now. And this is the sinking. We're not here to play the sinking, we're just here to look at things. Okay, the bow isn't flooded yet. I thought you could use the stairs. I could be wrong. Maybe this must be the other game I'm thinking of. I guess you can't. But guys, this is fascinating. Look at this. You're on a virtual ship, a ship that is sinking. This is just ridiculous. This is just fantastic. I can't even just tell you how, like, amazing this is. Obviously, we're not really meant to play the sinking of this game because I'm not really wanting to show you the sinking of the game. It's not what I'm here to do. But, guys, Titanic and Britannic sunk entirely different, yet it both showed that things needed to be changed. This is crazy, guys. Look, you're the captain of this ship. You see your ship is tilted so long, and it's weird. The stern stuck up straight because it would cost a lot to make the ship list. Yep, you're virtually right on that one. It's super hard. It costs a lot of money to do things like that. But guys, think. My whole point on this channel, the whole purpose of this channel is I want to make you guys, and this is not my content, don't get me wrong. I want to put you guys into perspective. I want to get you guys thinking about a ship. Not just any ship. 3 ships. Titanic, Olympic, and Britannic. The 3 ocean liners that sailed the ocean, and 2 of them sunk, and 1 of them survived, and 1 of them lived to tell one of the greatest stories it's ever had told, and the other 2 still live to be one of the 2 famous, or other 2 famous ships that has ever sailed the ocean. Titanic, to this day, still remains the most, if not famous ship in the world. The only ship that I can think of that might be just about the same as Titanic would be Noah's Ark, if I really wanted to get into perspective on that. I think Noah's Ark from the Bible is probably very, very similar to this, but that's about the only thing that I can think of that might be just as famous as Titanic. I can't think of any other thing. I honestly cannot. Maybe the Mayflower, but I honestly don't think I can think of any other ship other than Titanic. I do know that while the ship was sinking, the captain tried to beach it. Yep, and honestly, this is stuff that I know a lot of information about these ships because they're very interesting, they're very fantastic, and things that I love to hear. And when people tell me this stuff, I love it because it's like I know this stuff, but it puts me in a more perspective of a way that I just don't think of. Guys, you're the captain of a ship that has about 1,000 people on it. Your ship is sinking. You need to get this ship onto an island. You guys are in the middle of 2 islands, and you need to get this ship to shore. Guys, this isn't a game. This is an actual ship that is sinking in real life. A ship that costed people their lives. A ship that was very fantastic. A ship that costed $6-something million back then. That took less than an hour to sink. A ship that was the 2nd largest in the world took an hour to sink. Interesting. But then you put a perspective on Titanic. A ship that took 2.5 hours to sink. 2.5 hours to sink. A ship that had over 2,200 people on it. And yet, they could only get 700 people off the ship. And yet, Olympic or Britannic had almost the exact same amount of people on her ship when she got struck by a mine, and yet was able to get pretty much everyone off in time. Guys, the entire real reason why Britannic was able to get everyone off the ship 3 times as fast, almost 3 times as fast as Titanic, because these gantry davits, the very same purpose that Titanic did not have, that Britannic did have, was what saved Britannic. If Britannic did not have these, she would have lost pretty much all of her people. Plain and simple. Guys, these are things that they had access to, that people on Britannic had access to. Titanic didn't have all this stuff. Titanic was 3 years older than Britannic. It had 3 years of technology that at the time was booming. At the time, technology was advancing so fast that it was amazing to see and hear of. Guys, Britannic and Titanic sunk entirely different stories and had entirely different stories. But there's 2 ships that had a very, very impact on today's life. And I think it's very fascinating that when you put yourself in a perspective, when you put that VR headset on, like the Zombie Killer King has said, that he has played Titanic. Have you played Titanic but acted like you were the actual Titanic captain? Did you put that on and say that you were the captain of Titanic or Captain Smith? Put that on and put yourself in a perspective that Titanic was sinking and you were the captain or you were the first officer. These are stories that people have actually dealt with in their life, that people have actually faced on Titanic and Olympic and Britannic, on all 3 sister ships. Because guys gotta understand, Olympic also had its tragedy when it hit another ship. While it didn't sink, it still faced a huge issue. It hit another ship, and it could have sunk. These are perspectives that people do not think of. This is stuff no one thinks of. Put yourself in a perspective that your ship is sinking and you don't know how much time you have left. It's simple. We know that Britannic sunk in less than an hour. But the captain didn't know that Britannic was going to sink. Not even the first or second officers thought that Britannic was going to sink in an hour. In fact, they thought their ship was going to survive because their ship was the greatest ship in the world, the second largest ship in the world, and it was the most safest ship. It was held by White Star Line, a ship that had White Star Line had a ship that sunk 3 years ago, before this ship. A ship that they thought they made so much better, so much luxurious things were put into this ship. So much more safety standards. Guys, it could take six compartments of water. Gantry davits that were designed to be the most safest. And what would ultimately save everyone on Britannic, other than the people that made some foolish mistakes that night or that day. And then we have Titanic. Virtually, we have Titanic. A ship that sunk, again, 2 hours and 30 minutes. But didn't have this stuff. It couldn't hold 6 compartments of water. It didn't have the gantry davits that probably would have saved much more people because they were more advanced. It didn't have the resources on Titanic, or that Britannic had. It wasn't as long as Britannic. Britannic was still an inch longer, but still had more safety on board than Titanic. Britannic weighed more. Britannic had this main section in between her bow, which ultimately, in my opinion, helped her out because it separated water from this side, from the port side, and the starboard side. Why did this help? This probably helped a whole lot, actually, because it had to take two sides to flood the Britannic. Two sides to flood the Britannic. One last chance to get there. One last chance. One last chance. Guys, the perspective on this isn't about a video game. It isn't about what the coolest ship in Titanic or Britannic, about any other ship. It isn't a perspective that a ship can do whatever it wants in the middle of the ocean and has everything to its power. It is a ship that ultimately sailed the ocean and became one of the most famous ships in the world due to its sinking. And to this day, we no longer have ocean liners that once sailed the ocean. And once, the ocean liners were the most luxurious ships in the world. Now, we have bigger, and I will say safety, more safety. I won't say better, but I have to. Cruise ships that now rule the world. Because we have airplanes. Airplanes that are used to go across the ocean in record speeds time. And not in the ocean, but above the ocean. Ocean liners don't need to exist. Cruise ships need to exist because people want to be on something that is going to get them to where they want, but they don't care about luxurious things. I also know that Britannic only sank in 400 feet of water, and that's why the stern stuck out of the water. Yeah, guys, I'm not reading this off a paper. In fact, right here, well, not really right there. Anyway, right there, I have my tablet. It's using chat. So when you guys see me looking off, I'm not using any paperwork or anything like that. And my other screen is what I'm using to show you guys and broadcasting it onto this side. And this side's my computer or my what's it called? My OBS side. So this is where I'm using my Lego streaming side. I'm not using anything. I'm using everything that is from my brain and what I'm trying to show you guys that happened in real life. It's not a game. These aren't games. These are meant to show us history. And that's the perspective I put it in. Welcome there, Derek 4821. Legos are behind me still. A whole collection. A whole collection that will be used to build back the most luxurious ship. The most luxurious ships in the world. Don't spam in the chat there, Derek. Please. Yeah. It's crazy. It's even more crazier when you have someone spamming in the chat and you can't get it under control. It's pretty bad. But ultimately, I think we are in a place we can build the most luxurious ship and bring back the most luxurious ship in the world. And yeah, plain and simple. I'm excited. I'm really excited. Because we're not only bringing this channel back into a perspective of Legos, which I think are great, but moving on to a section of ocean liners and ships, which are clearly much more, in my opinion, fun. I like to talk more about the Titanic and more about the Olympic and the Britannic. And yeah. So, anyway. Quick thing, does anyone have anything? Derek with the question marks. Stop spamming my chat. I'm more familiar with Titanic than I am with Britannic and Olympic. And you know, honestly, that it is true. Yeah, you can see that Titanic is much more famous than Britannic and Olympic. It's just how it is, and people are more familiar with that compared to Britannic and Olympic. The Britannic movie was really good, in my opinion. I thought it was a really cool movie, really cool section, and I enjoyed it. Got it back on here, and yeah. By the way, this is Titanic again, and this is Titanic Honor and Glory 401. Anyone can join, and it looks like my tablet is on emergency power mode pretty much. Let me see if I can save her quick. I need the chat. Well, I need to access it on my computer or my tablet. Alright, so we're good on there. I hope your channel grows. Hey, thank you so much, Alistair. Yeah, I've seen more support this past month than I've ever seen, and I'm looking forward to showing you guys what I actually have planned. I have 2 videos that I have in the plans or in the works, and I actually think they're very interesting. They're interesting because they're 2 perspectives that people, one, do not put into a perspective at all, and it's also something no one's ever talked about the Titanic. How has this not ever gotten talked about Titanic? To this day, so much people talk about every great thing on Titanic, but do they talk about the little details that I think that matter? The little details ultimately are what makes something something. And I'm going the wrong way. Look at these stained glass windows. I can build these. These can be done. I'm going to be ordering these stained glass windows later on. Derek, why not build the Lego Titanic? Well, if I build the Lego Titanic, I don't have enough stuff to build it. I have to buy a lot. What's ultimately holding back for my next video and stuff is a order that has to be placed that costs $500 to build another section of Titanic, which, again, $500 is a lot, and that I personally want to take very easy, and I want to slowly take that before I even do it. I want to, if I can show you guys a little bit more probably, I want to take this ship, which again, hasn't completely got designed out yet. I'm still waiting on the instructions to be shipped to my house. I do have the digital instructions, but I think the in-person instructions are so much better. And I'm not building this off those instructions because there is no instruction for this Titanic that I'm building. These instructions are to tell me and show me each of Titanic's rooms and ultimately help me build the world's most luxurious, biggest ship that has ever been seen. Derek, stop. You're causing more trouble on the stream than you are actually causing in person. I know that the ship had 2 expansion joints, not allowed it to flex and move through the ship. Well, yeah, but ultimately those expansion joints were what doomed the ship, in my opinion. I think the second one did. This is the first expansion joint. And then there's the second one. And guys, isn't it kind of ironic and funny how the second one was placed right where Titanic splits in half? Or pretty much split? Yeah, this is where Titanic almost split. The fact that this one is right where Titanic pretty much splits in half is very fascinating. And Derek, I cannot jump. There's no option for me to jump from this ship like the other ship that I was on. But it's funny how this is directly right where Titanic splits. It's because those expansion joints took on way too much pressure, which ultimately doomed the ship. Welcome, Molly. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Nice to see you on the stream. Well, Derek, I don't think there's an iceberg either. By the way, all these chairs don't look totally uncomfortable. I think they're fine. Because there's like a stitched out section right in the middle and kind of be very comfortable to sit on. But yeah, the bow section. Again. I don't think it was an iceberg that technically doomed the ship. I think Titanic was in a section. Can I let me get to this area? I think Titanic was in an issue and in a section of her life that it wasn't the iceberg. Don't get me on this part. Yes, she did hit the Titanic, the iceberg. I think what ultimately doomed her was her safety precautions. The things that could have been done that weren't done. Like Captain Smith. And it still shows research to this day that he rushed Titanic's building experience. He rushed the lifeboats. He wanted to get the ship out so fast. And it wasn't just Captain Smith. It was Ismay and all of them. And they're not bad guys. Don't get me wrong. They're not villains. Because they aren't. They are what made the ship Titanic or Britannic or Olympic. But the issue with them is they made this ship go out when it was not designed to be out already at this point. They should have delayed it 1 more month. It shouldn't have set sail until May, in my opinion. Because lifeboats could have still been put onto it, and they could have finished up some safety things. Like, they could have put the decks up higher, or the watertight doors could have been put up higher. Because you guys imagine, the watertight doors go up 1 more deck. Just 1 more deck. Think about how much longer it would have took to sink Titanic. Honestly, Titanic probably would have taken 3 hours to sink. if the watertight doors went up to the next deck. Wasn't the captain drunk when he was piloting? Well, the captain wasn't even piloting the ship, if I want to say it that way. The first officer was, and it wasn't the first officer at the same time. The crew members were there too. The captain was downstairs. Well, see, and this is the thing. With the captain, he wasn't on the bridge. They don't quite know exactly where the captain was at. Because either the captain was dining or the captain was sleeping. And it's kind of hard to find out which the research is. I'd have to do more research on that part, but I believe the captain was more... I personally think that he was in his... what's it called? Out dining or eating and all that stuff. Because, and we're not going off Titanic the movie, but it did take him a little bit to get up from where he was at to the bridge. That part I do know. It took him a little bit. If it did take him a lot, it would have easily been a fast, okay, what's the situation? All right, the situation is we're going to sink. What's next? Fast situation there. A lot of people died in the construction then. Well, yeah, guys, got to understand. The construction consists of so much people dying to build this ship that it was almost destined to fail in its first place. Like, I honestly think that was true. And they also used steel that was probably some of the best in our day. Even though people criticized that it was the worst. I think it was some of the best steel that was used in our day. The person piloting the ship was Countermaster Hitchens. Well, yeah, and I knew that Hitchens was, but it wasn't also... There was 2 other officers on deck. It was First Officer William Murdoch. It was Hitchens, as you said, which... I feel like there's also... I know there's one more, and then in Titanic scene, this is so untrue. There was not an officer going out rushing to get tea. Guys, I'm sorry for criticizing this part. But if an officer was sitting there rushing with his tea and getting a phone call and answering it, they're not just going to stand there. Iceberg dead ahead. You're not just going to be like, oh, iceberg dead ahead. The seconds click in your head. You're on your phone, iceberg dead ahead. You have a thing of tea. The way he walked into that section, just in my opinion, was totally wrong. Because he walked in and answered the phone right away. Honestly, William Murdoch was sitting outside the bridge, not sitting, but like standing, looking for issues or things that were going to arise with Titanic, and found out himself that he found the issue before the person that was calling found the issue. It's like, hear me out on this one. The people in the crow's nest found the iceberg at the same time William Murdoch did. There's not too much of a height difference. They both pretty much saw at the same time. I think that part was very accurate because William Murdoch didn't need the phone call. He probably didn't even need the bells. He saw an iceberg directly ahead that was going to hit his bow. What do you do in that instance? You try to protect your ship. Is that going to be the best situation in that part? Probably not. And Titanic also had the best steering option available than any other ship of her day for her size. It was absolutely amazing. But how do you know that? They're dead. Well, you don't. You go off survivor count. To this day, people still go off all the survivor testimonies, and they base that in for the information. Yeah. Derek. We'll talk later. Stop. I think Captain Bernal Hale was a great Captain Smith. And actually, that's an interesting thing, because I don't know who would be a better captain in that case. Would you rather have Captain Smith running the ship or a different captain? Because Captain Smith was the best, greatest captain ever that sailed the ocean at this time. Cool. Anyone know that? Well, you know that now. Captain Smith was the greatest captain to sail this ship. There was no other person that could sail a ship better than this. Anyway. So yeah, this is the bow. Unfortunately, I cannot jump or even do anything else to get up there. And I can't climb the ladder because I'll fall down a hole. Don't want to do that either. I wonder if the ship would have hit the iceberg head on and what's up. I don't think Titanic would have been able to take the iceberg dead on. I think she honestly might have got stuck with an iceberg on her. Guys, I got through. Okay. Finally, we got through. We can go tour the crow's nest. Cruise nest. Whatever. Can we go to the anchor room? Yeah, we can go to the anchor room right in a second. I think Titanic would have taken a lot to the issue. Anyway, here's the lovely crow's nest. Cruise nest, whatever you want to call it. Crow's nest, okay. That's what I would call it. It's more of the crow's nest in a way. Look at this beautiful ship. Look how far you can see out in the ocean. Guys, think of this new thing. Thank you, Copper, for saying that. There is a series that I want to open up, and it'll be kind of directed towards Titanic and other ships. And it's pretty much an ongoing series that I would be going on about Titanic, Britannic, and Olympic. And it will put us in a perspective of what's it called? Of things in Titanic, the officers, the crew members, the people on Titanic. It will put you in a perspective of them. And I think the first people you would have to do, by the way, 13 people on the stream, holy moly. Make sure you like the stream, guys, if you haven't. That is amazing. I just caught on about that. Like, that's insane. Thank you, guys. Anyway. So, we are on the crow's nest. Everything that can be seen on here. Derek, stop. Anyway. You can ring the bell up here. You can do the things that need to be done. You don't think that she would have lasted a head-on collision. I personally do not think Titanic would be able to survive a head-on collision. And if she did, you all have to remember how much people would still die of her hitting a head-on collision. Because if she hit a head-on collision, everything forward of this section, everything you see right here, wouldn't exist. It would all be buckled. It would all be crushed. Sheer amount of issues on Titanic would arise. Her steering would pretty much be absolutely, utterly destroyed. She would not be able to do much. Guys, they say that Titanic will survive. And again, if she does, she is compromised so much. They say, oh, we can just tow Titanic back into shore. It's not that easy. It's not as easy as you probably all think that it is to tow a ship back in. First off, to tow a ship back in this size is gonna take a lot more than you think. Second off, the ship cannot, well, how do I put it in this word? It can still move forward, but there's a reason why it has a pointed edge, because it can slice through water fairly fast at good speeds. By the time that Titanic would have got into harbor, it would have been longer than expected. And also, I don't think her watertight doors would be able to hold all the oncoming water that's in front of her. I don't. I think at this case, the first 3 watertight compartments would be completely destroyed. Destroyed completely. Nothing left. And we'll go down. And I don't think anything could help her in this situation. The anchor is completely destroyed. Everything that in that section is pushed up against Titanic. Flattened against Titanic. Nothing else to say. Completely flattened. Everyone in that section is completely dead. That is why I think it's not going to happen. This is the entire section for the anchors. The entire section would have been shredded. This isn't going to exist once Titanic hit an iceberg dead on. So this is a section that I will go on in more of a series, and why I believe that Titanic probably wouldn't not. And for the longest time, I thought Titanic might be able to survive a head-on collision. I truthfully don't think she will. I think Britannic will, because Britannic is more safe and has her watertight doors up higher. I don't think Titanic could. I really don't think that she could. I think the pressure would just be too much. And Britannic is built differently and stronger than Titanic, that it would last longer. But anyway, I want to answer some of your guys' questions. Do you guys have any questions about Titanic or about the series that I have coming up? Or anything else like that? And now I'm just getting a bunch of messages randomly. And my phone is about to die. Good situation, guys, right now. We are in a very good situation. I have a dead phone almost, and there's nothing I really can do about it. Anyway, yeah, so if you have any questions, we might not have a camera in a second. Yeah, camera on overload right now. So guys, camera's going to go out very soon. I'm just going to let it die off. And I just went down the same thing that I didn't want to go down earlier. So you guys, yeah, camera's going to be going down. I'm definitely still here. But yeah, I'm just going to let my camera die off because there's nothing I can do about it. My phone is not charged. Yeah. I'd imagine a swimming pool would be filled with debris and muck. Yeah, probably. And it wouldn't be so good either. Can we go to the pool? I can show you the pool. At this point, I just want questions about the bow or anything that you guys want to like see in the future about this channel. I'd be honored to help with that. I will go to the pool. It's going to take me a little bit to get to there. But this stream is more dedicated towards the bow. So I will show you guys the pool, but it's more dedicated towards the bow. So if you guys got any questions about that, I would love to talk about that. I will have more streams coming out, and these streams will be focused on more of Titanic sections. And then I also have Titanic sinking stream that'll be dedicated just towards Titanic sinking and us staying late up at a night that Titanic 112 years ago sunk on. I thought that'd be kind of a really cool process. So now let's get to the very mighty, powerful Titanic's pool, or the very mighty, wonderful section of Titanic that I love. Anyway, guys, look at this room. This is a room that first class people got to enjoy. It's beautiful. I love it. I think it's great. I want to see if I can get my phone to charge. Maybe. That way we still have a camera. I don't know why my phone doesn't ever charge. This doesn't, we don't need it. I wonder what Scotland Road looks like in the wreck. Honestly, that's a good question. I couldn't answer that question either. Just because I physically can't. It's yeah. Interesting. I'll tell you that. Yeah, so let's quickly see if we can get to the pool. Don't worry, still here. Maybe. Don't worry, phone's gonna die very soon. So be on the process of looking out for that. And we'll go from that.